Okay, guys. I feel my skag hitting the rocks there. Look at pretty butterflies. You see that? Black and yellow. These got like monarch butterflies. Doing some kind of dance there. I don't know. Oh, beautiful. That wind's let up a little bit. It's up to 9-mile-per-hour winds today. You can see we're moving a little bit here. Got a little bit of wind coming at me here. That skag rudder in the back that I put down, it flips over so that it's out of the way, and it flips down so that it's in the water. It helps track a lot. That is, go in a straight line. And that's one of the advantages to those. Because this boat doesn't really have a keel to it through the center. It don't have a keel, so you need some help in the back. I'm just going in this cove to look around. I didn't bring my fly rod because it's too windy or it's too choppy. Now in the crossover too, the pedals, I adjusted my pedals. I got inside, adjusted my pedals, and then when you put your feet in, you want your pedals so that you got your feet on there and you got your knees bent, and your knees should come up here to the side right here, so that you wear the kayak like a pair of pants or a skirt, however you want to call it, and so when you turn your hips, the kayak turns with it. So I'm just floating around right now. Comes a bird. See what that is? Like a seagull looking bird. And see that wind? We're rocking. It's kind of fun when the water's a little bit choppy too. But when that wind picks up, oh boy, it is hard to maneuver when that wind picks up really hard. It's a pretty day, and it's supposed to be 90 degrees today, so it's in the sun it feels about like that, but we got a lot of clouds, and when they go in front of the sun it cools off. There's that bird again, which you probably can't see with GoPro. That's the biggest disadvantage with GoPro, is that close-up things do really well, I think, you know, but things that are distance, it's pretty useless. And the wind is against us, like 5-mile-per-hour wind. Here's a shallow spot up here that's really pretty. It's so much more fun to do your cardio and work out your shoulders and stuff like that. And in a kayak instead of inside of a gym. Isn't that pretty? What is that? That's a gar coming right here. Try not to scare him. Look at him. I don't know if you can see him or not, but he's about 2 feet long gar, about 2.5 foot long gar, and there are plenty of those around. They're fun to catch, but they will bite your line because they got so many teeth. Okay, it's a pretty little place right here. I'm using a paddle called Adventure by Harmony, and it's a nice paddle. You can adjust it any position you want right here. If you want the ends right here to be symmetrical like they are now, or you want them to be offset a little bit. And when it's really windy, it's probably better to have them offset a little bit and cut through the wind a little better. But I paid like, I think this paddle was like $110. This was way back years ago, and that was expensive to me back in the 90s. And but it's been a good one. You know, you get what you pay for. And a friend of mine, he had a kayak, and he let me borrow. He said take this paddle with you next time you go. And it was a carbon fiber paddle. In the 90s, that was, you didn't hear very much about carbon fiber. But this was like space age material back then. And so I took the carbon fiber, but he gave it, put it in my hand. It's like, wow. And that's about all you can say when you first handle a carbon fiber paddle, because it doesn't weigh anything hardly. And I think it weighed 22 ounces, you know, like almost a pound and a half. It weighed like 22 ounces. And it was so light. I mean, you could take one finger and hold it like a straw, you know, and it was just so light. This one is fairly light. That's why I bought this one. But that paddle back then cost $300, and that was a lot of money. Today, that's like $600 for a paddle like that. I'd say between $500 and $600 you'd pay for a carbon fiber paddle. And I think 22 ounces is the lightest one they make, maybe. And that is really incredible, these paddles. But you can paddle that carbon fiber. I thought it was too light. It was too flimsy. It would break. He said it won't break. It's tough. I mean, it is tough. And so I paddled all day with it, and it was just like holding a spoon in your hand. It was just so light, and you could maneuver your boat around with one hand so easily. I mean, it was incredible. And so I never bought one of those, but it was just, couldn't justify spending that much. But so part of your adventure in a kayak is going to be what kind of paddle you have. And you know, they make all different types and so forth. And so you generally if you're going to be in a kayak, and you know you're going to be in a kayak for years to come, it's wise, I think, to spend maybe $300 on a paddle. Some people put more money in a paddle than they do their kayak, but it depends on what you're going to do with it, you know. So sea kayak paddles are a little shorter because they're narrow kayaks, I think, and more recreational like this. Even though this is a crossover, it's a hybrid. It'll handle, this boat it's 12.5 feet. It will handle class 3 rapids, and it'll handle reservoirs and flat water like this, and ponds and streams and rivers. And so it's very versatile. So yeah, the paddle is a very important item with your kayak. But another thing about the kayak, you know, I'm talking so they hear that, but you'd be surprised. You can creep up on anything in a kayak, from fish. won't even know you're there. And birds and ducks and geese and all kind of critters and stuff like that, they won't hear you. Look how pretty that island is. Man, it looks like it's manicured almost. We have a good chance of catching something around this island with that lure now. It's a little bit shallower because I just cut through the very center of the lake here. I can get a little closer. And with my skeg out on the crossover here, it's really staying straight. Without that skeg, the wind here would be blowing me in circles because it doesn't have a keel on this boat. The skeg makes all the difference in the world. And the crows here upset about something. So we've come from all the way back over there to the land over there. Oh, the water's shallow right here. I'm gonna watch my lure right there. That's a nice little island.